You doing me like this?
Are you doing the class?
No.
Who's doing the class?
Purujit, I think.
I think you can do the Jayam because it's a bit over time.
Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramamsa Parivraja Kacharya Ashtashi Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yeah, here. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramamsa Parivraja Kacharya Ashtashi Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. प्रेम से क्या श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपा गोपीनाथ श्यामा कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय श्री मायापुर धाम की जय श्री जगन्नाथपुरी की जय गंगा मैया की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय प्रेम से क्या भक्ति देवी अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद जय जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय जय गुरु प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल glory to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Garanga all glories to Shri
Namo Mr. Pranay Krishna Vastaya Bhotri Shrimad Bhakti Vedanta Samani Vinamare Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Vracharina Nirvishesha Shunamari Bhaskara. Why the devotees?
Why is
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 15, text 44 and 45. Deva amushya vadana shita padmakosham Udvikshya sundara tarara dhara kundahasam Labda shishaha punar evekshya tadiyam anghari Dvandvam na karuna mani sharaya nama nidadhiyu Teva amushya varanasita padmakosham Udvikshya sundara taradhara kundahasam Labda shishaha punar evakshya tadiyamangri Dvandvam na karuna mani sharayanam nidadhiyu Deva amushya varanasita padmakosham Udvikshya sundara taradhara kundahasam Labda shishaha punar avekshya tadidyamangri Dvandvam na karuna manishrayanam nidadyu Teva amushya varanasita padmakosham Udvikshya sundara taradhara kundahasam Labda shishaha punaravekshya tadiyamangri Dvandvam na karuna manishrayanam nidayuhu Teva amushya varanasita padmakosham Udvikshya sundara taradhara kundahasam Labda shisha punarabhekshya tadiyamangri Dvandvam na karuna manishrayanam nidadyu Deva amushya varanasita padmakosham Udvikshya sundara taradhara kundahasam Labda shishaha punaravekshya tadiyamangri Dvandvam na karuna manishrayanam nidadyu Te, those sages. Vai, certainly. Amushya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vadana, face. Asita, blue. Padma, lotus. Kosham, inside. Udvikshya, after looking up. Sundaratara, more beautiful. Adara, lips. Kunda, jasmine flower. Hasam, smiling. Labda, achieved. Ashishaha, aims of life. Punaha, again. Avekshya, looking down. Tadiyam, his. Angri, dvandvam, pair of lotus feet. Naka, nails. Aruna, red. Mani, rubies. Shrayanam, shelter. Nidadyuhu, meditated. Translation. The Lord's beautiful face appeared to them like the inside of a blue lotus, and the Lord's smile appeared to be a blossoming jasmine flower. After seeing the face of the Lord, the sages were fully satisfied, and when they wanted to see him further, they looked upon the nails of his lotus feet, which resembled rubies. Thus they viewed the Lord's transcendental body again and again, and so they finally achieved meditation on the Lord's personal feature. Pumsam gatim mrigayatam iha yoga margair dhyanas padam bahumatam nayana bhiramam Poms namapura darshayana mananyat siddhair Outpatikai samagnana yutam ashtabogai Pumsam, of those persons, gatim, liberation, mrigayatam, who are searching, iha, here in this world, yoga margai, by the process of Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Aspadam, object of meditation, Bahu, by the great yogis, Matam, approved, Nayana, eyes, Abhiramam, pleasing, Pomshnam, human, Vapuhu, form, Darshayanam, displaying, Ananya, not by others, Siddhai, perfected, Otpatikai, eternally present, Samagnan, praised, Yutam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is endowed, Ashtabogai, with 8 kinds of achievement. Translation. This is the form of the Lord which is meditated upon by the followers of the yoga process, and it is pleasing to the yogis in meditation. It is not imaginary but factual, as proved by the great yogis. The Lord is full in 8 kinds of achievement, but for others these achievements are not possible in full perfection. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. The success of the yoga process is very nicely described here. It is specifically mentioned that the form of the Lord as four-handed Narayan is the object of meditation for the followers of Yoga Marg. In the modern age, there are so many so-called yogis who do not target their meditation on the four-handed Narayan form. Some of them try to meditate on something impersonal or void, but that is not approved by the great yogis who follow the standard method. The real yoga marg process is to control the senses, sit in a solitary and sanctified place, and meditate on the four-handed form of Narayan, decorated as described in this chapter, as he appeared before the 4 sages. This Narayan form is Krishna's expansion. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement, which is now spreading, is the real topmost process of yoga practice. Krishna consciousness is the highest yoga performance by trained devotional yogis. Despite all the allurement of yoga practice, the 8 kinds of yogic perfections are hardly achievable by the common man. But here it is described that the Lord, who appeared before the 4 sages, is himself full of all 8 of those perfections. The highest yoga marg process is to concentrate the mind 24 hours a day on Krishna. This is called Krishna consciousness. The yoga system, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, or as recommended in the Patanjali yoga process, is different from the nowadays practiced Hatha yoga as it is generally understood in the Western countries. Real yoga practice is to control the senses, and after such control is established, to concentrate the mind on the Narayan form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all the other Vishnu forms with 4 hands decorated with conch, lotus, club, and wheel are plenary expansions of Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, it is recommended that one meditate upon the form of the Lord. To practice concentration of the mind, one is to sit with the head and the back in a straight line, and one must practice in a secluded place sanctified by a sacred atmosphere. The yogi should observe the rules and regulations of brahmacharya to strictly live a life of self-restraint and celibacy. One cannot practice yoga in a congested city, living a life of extravagancy, including unrestricted sex indulgence and adultery of the tongue. Yoga practice necessitates controlling the senses, and the beginning of sense control is to control the tongue. One who can control the tongue can also have control over the other senses. One cannot allow the tongue to take all kinds of forbidden food and drink, and at the same time advance in the practice of yoga. It is a very regrettable fact that many unauthorized so-called yogis come to the Western countries and exploit people's inclination towards yoga practice. Such unauthorized yogis even dare to say publicly that one can indulge in the habit of drinking and at the same time practice meditation. 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna recommended yoga practice to Arjuna, but Arjuna frankly expressed his inability to follow the stringent rules and regulations of the yoga system. One should be very practical in every field of activities and should not waste his valuable time in practicing useless gymnastic feats in the name of yoga. Real yoga is to search out the 4-handed supersoul within one's heart and see him perpetually in meditation. Such continued meditation is called samadhi, and the object of this meditation is the 4-handed Narayan, with bodily decorations as described in this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. If, however, one wants to meditate upon something void or impersonal, it will take a very long time before he achieves success in yoga practice. We cannot concentrate our mind on something void or impersonal. Real yoga is to fix the mind on the form of the Lord, the 4-handed Narayan, who is sitting in everyone's heart. By meditation, one can understand that God is seated within one's heart. Even if one does not know it, God is seated within the heart of everyone. Not only is He seated in the heart of a human being, but He is also within the hearts of cats and dogs. Bhagavad Gita certifies this fact by the declaration of the Lord, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hrideshe. The Ishvara, the supreme controller of the world, is seated in the heart of everyone. Not only is He in everyone's heart, but He is also present within the atom. No place is vacant or devoid of the presence of the Lord. That is the statement of Shri Upanishad. God is present everywhere, and His right of proprietorship applies to everything. The feature of the Lord by which He is present everywhere is called Paramatma. Atma means the individual soul, and Paramatma means the individual supersoul. Both Atma and Paramatma are individual persons. The difference between Atma and Paramatma is that the Atma or the soul is present only in a particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present everywhere. In this connection, the example of the sun is very nice. An individual person may be situated in one place, but the sun, even though a similar individual entity, is present on the head of every individual person. In Bhagavad Gita, this is explained. Therefore, even though the qualities of all entities, including the Lord, are equal, the supersoul is different from the individual soul by quantitative power of expansion. The Lord or the supersoul can expand himself into millions of different forms, whereas the individual soul cannot do so. The supersoul, being seated in everyone's heart, can witness everyone's activities, past, present, and future. In the Upanishads, the Supersoul is described as being seated with the individual soul as friend and witness. As a friend, the Lord is always anxious to get back his friend, the individual soul, and bring him back home, back to Godhead. As a witness, he is the bestower of all benedictions, and he endows each individual with the result of his actions. The Supersoul gives the individual soul all facilities to achieve whatever he desires to enjoy in this material world. Suffering is a reaction to the living entity's propensity to try to lord it over the material world. But the Lord instructs his friend, the individual soul, who is also his son, to give up all other engagements and simply surrender unto him for perpetual bliss and eternal life full of knowledge. This is the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita, the most authorized and widely read book on all varieties of yoga. Thus, the last word of Bhagavad Gita is the last word in the perfection of yoga. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that a person who is always absorbing Krishna consciousness is the topmost yogi. What is Krishna consciousness? As the individual soul is present by his consciousness throughout his entire body, so the Supersoul or Paramatma is present throughout the whole creation by superconsciousness. This superconscious energy is imitated by the individual soul who has limited consciousness. I can understand what is going on within my limited body, but I cannot feel what is going on in another's body. I am present throughout my body by my consciousness, but my consciousness is not present in another's body. The Supersoul of Paramatma, however, being present everywhere and within everyone, is also conscious of everyone's existence. The theory that the soul and the Supersoul are one is not acceptable because it is not confirmed by authoritative Vedic literature. The individual soul's consciousness cannot act in superconsciousness. The superconsciousness can be achieved, however, by dovetailing individual consciousness with the consciousness of the Supreme. This dovetailing process is called surrender or Krishna consciousness. From the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, we learn very clearly that Arjuna in the beginning did not want to fight with his brothers and relatives, but after understanding Bhagavad Gita, he dovetailed his consciousness with the superconsciousness of Krishna. He was then in Krishna consciousness. A person in full Krishna consciousness acts by the dictation of Krishna. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, dictation is received through the transparent medium of the spiritual master. When one is sufficiently trained and acts in submissive faith and love for Krishna under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, the dovetailing process becomes more firm and accurate. This stage of devotional service by the devotee in Krishna consciousness is the most perfect stage of the yoga system. At this stage, Krishna or the Supersoul dictates from within, while from without, the devotee is helped by the spiritual master, who is the bona fide representative of Krishna. From within, he helps the devotee as Chaitya, for he is seated within the heart of everyone. Understanding that God is seated within everyone's heart is not, however, sufficient. One has to be acquainted with God from both within and without. And one must take dictation from within and without to act in Krishna consciousness. This is the highest perfectional stage of the human form of life and the topmost perfection of all yoga. For a perfect yogi, there are 8 kinds of super achievements. One can become lighter than air. One can become smaller than the atom. One can become bigger than a mountain. One can achieve whatever he desires. One can control like the Lord, and so on. But when one rises to the perfectional stage of receiving dictation from the Lord, then that is greater than any stage of material achievements above mentioned. The breathing exercise of the yoga system, which is generally practiced, is just the beginning meditation on the Supersoul, just another step forward. But to obtain direct contact with the Supersoul and take dictation from him is the highest perfectional stage. The breathing exercises of meditation practice were very difficult even 5,000 years ago. Otherwise, Arjuna would not rejected the proposal of Krishna that he adopt this system. This age of Kali is called the fallen age. In this age, people in general are short-living and very slow to understand self-realization or spiritual life. They're mostly unfortunate, and therefore if someone is a little bit interested in self-realization, he is likely to be misguided by so many frauds. The only way to realize the perfect stage of yoga is to follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita as practiced by Lord Chaitanya. This is the simplest and highest perfection of yoga practice. Lord Chaitanya demonstrated this Krishna consciousness yoga system in a practical manner simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, as prescribed in the Vedanta, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and many important Puranas. The largest number of Indians follow this yoga process, and in the United States it is gradually spreading in many cities. It is very easy and practical for this age, especially for those who are serious about success in yoga. No other process of yoga can be successful in this age. The meditation process was possible in the golden age, Satya Yuga, because people in that age used to live for hundreds of thousands of years. If one wants success in practical yoga practice, it is advised that he take the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and he will actually feel himself making progress. In Bhagavad Gita, this practice of Krishna consciousness is prescribed as Rajavidya, or the king of all erudition. Those who have taken to this most sublime bhakti yoga system, who practice devotional service in transcendental love of Krishna, can testify to its happy and easy execution. The four sages, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara, also became attracted by the features of the Lord and the transcendental aroma of the dust of his lotus feet, as already described in verse 43. Yoga necessitates controlling the senses, and Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness is the process of purifying the senses. When the senses are purified, they're automatically controlled. One cannot stop the activities of the senses by artificial means. But if one purifies the senses by engaging in the service of the Lord, the senses not only can be controlled from rubbish engagement, but can be engaged in the Lord's transcendental service as aspired to by the four sages, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara. Krishna consciousness is not therefore a manufactured concoction of the speculative mind. It is the process enjoined in Bhagavad Gita. Manmana bhava madbhakto mamyajima namaskuru. Om agyan derinandasya gyanajana shalakayam chakshunan minitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master is divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has opened my dark eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. Jai Shri Prabhupada. So, the material time in this material universe is divided into four phases. Satya Yuga, the pious age, Treta Yuga, the vice is introduced. Dvapara Yuga, Krishna appears in this age at the end. And finally Kali Yuga. This is what we're living right now. We're in a phase called Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So just like the ages are changing, the method of realizing Krishna also changes. So, for example, in Satya Yuga, people could reach perfection simply by meditation. Meditation. In Treta Yuga, it's the sacrifices, yagya, costly yagyas. Dvapara Yuga, temple worship or deity worship. And Kali Yuga, this Harinam Sankirtan. So when this meditation type of yoga is described in the Shastra, it is applicable to the Satya Yuga age, not this age. People are jumping. They don't understand that the Acharya, Lord Chaitanya is also one of our Acharyas, so the Acharya has given us the process. You follow this now. He already knows all the Shastra, everything. So we should follow the guidance of Lord Chaitanya. Chant Hare Krishna. And if we want to speculate, if we want to jump over the whole disciplic succession, and stubbornly we say, I want to meditate, because meditation is very nice. You're just sitting and doing nothing. Then you cannot achieve any perfection. The mind of an individual in Kali Yuga is so polluted. From childhood, he's getting his mind polluted by so many nonsense things. And nowadays, in the age of social media and scrolling, we get so much nonsense, so much prajalpa we're exposed to. So how you want to meditate? You are seeing something, you're seeing nonsense, you're hearing nonsense, then you must understand, then you must think of nonsense also. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. Just like in devotional service, when you hear about Krishna, you glorify Krishna, and you go back home, back to Krishna. In the case of now I lost track of thought. Completely blank. Anyway, so this is not the process for this age, this meditation. The mind is so polluted. We only think of nonsense. You cannot think of Krishna. The mind is like a wave. It will wash you out. Devotees, they can experience this while chanting japa in the morning. How the mind is flushing you. And you try, what is this? I got cheated again. Okay, let me meditate. Hare Krishna, Krishna. And the mind again, very trickily diverts you. And then again you realize, I was not hearing the holy name. And again, and again, and again cheats you continuously. So imagine people who try this without any chanting, without any mantra, how foolish they are. And then they advertise it. I am a great yogi. I am meditating. I am a great meditator. One time I met one guy in Montreal on book distribution, and I was distributing books to him, and he said, I met your Swami in 1968 here in Montreal. I met him. I said, oh really? I was interested. Please tell me. Tell me some pastimes. But he was at Rasco. He said, I can tell you, because I met him, I can tell you he was not enlightened. So I was like, Rasco. I have met at Rasco. I immediately understood. So I asked him why. He said, because how long you meditate? You meditate 16, you do 16 rounds. Somehow he knew our sadhana, what our sadhana is. So how long does it take you? I said, 2 hours. And he said, I meditate for 8 hours straight and no chanting. He said he thought that the chanting is for losers, that the real meditators, they just meditate in silence. That is the sign of advancement, that you finish any sound, vibration. So anyway, I didn't waste time with him. I was arguing, such a polluted nonsense guy. Even I'm doubtful that he met actually Prabhupada. So that is impossible. Those who say that, oh yes, I'm meditating, I'm experiencing something, they're just cheating. They're cheating themselves. First of all, they cheat themselves to feel better. And then they cheat others. And why people are doing this? Because some unauthorized so-called spiritual masters flooded the material the Western world and have introduced the process of yoga in a very nonsense way, without chanting. See, any so-called spiritual master, any yogi, if he does not preach the Sankirtan Yagya, if he does not teach about the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that this is the Yoga Dharma, he is a bogus. You can even see this. Many devotees and swamis, you can see on social media, they speak of relationships, they speak of how to have peace of mind, they speak of how to become free from distress. So many topics they discuss. But chanting of Hare Krishna is never the emphasis. If you listen to Prabhupada's classes, those of you who are listening regularly, you can notice that at the end he said, chant Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, he ends class many times like this, chant Hare Krishna. And then the devotees go, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. But he says that at the end, chant Hare Krishna. And he's emphasizing, even in this purport, Srila Prabhupada wrote down the whole Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then you can see also in other books, the Prabhupada always writes the whole Maha Mantra, 16 words. Why? Because he understands the potency of the Maha Mantra. While people are reading, they might not be devotees, but because they read the Maha Mantra, they become purified. Their purification begins. So, what is the use of talking so many words if people are not chanting Hare Krishna? This should be the aim of our preaching. That we convince people to chant Hare Krishna. Not to be peaceful. Not to be self-realized even. If you speak of self-realization, that you are not this body or spirit soul, you are eternal, it's incomplete. Unless you explain that the duty of the spirit soul. You are eternal, you're not supposed to be here in this material world, and you engage in so many duties. So, what is your spiritual, your real duty? What is that? Then you come to devotional service. And this chanting of Hare Krishna is the easiest way how to render devotional service to Krishna. So, this meditational process is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Those of you who have read the Bhagavad Gita, you know in the 6th chapter how minutely Krishna explains the rules and regulations of the yoga system, yoga process. This is also meant for the previous ages. Even 5,000 years ago, Arjuna declared that, oh, this is impossible. Krishna, are you asking me to do this? It is impossible. I cannot do. Why? Because my mind is unsteady and flickering. And it is more difficult to control the mind than to control the wind. So Arjuna was very sincere, very honest. He understood, yes, in Kali Yuga we cannot practice this. And this was 5,000 years ago. What these rascals are going to say that they're more than Arjuna, more qualified? Arjuna was a Nitya Siddha, personal associate of Krishna. Highly elevated person. He knew the Vedas. He knew everything. And still he said, I cannot practice this. So we should not be confused. Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the United States, He started his preaching in Dr. Mishra's Yoga Society. He had some friend, Dr. Mishra, and he was one of these cheater yogis. He was teaching people how to, close your eyes and think of nothing. How can you think of nothing? Nothing is unthinkable because nothing doesn't exist. You can't meditate on something that doesn't exist. You cannot even imagine nothing because it doesn't exist even as a concept. Nothing is simply a negation of something. But by itself, there's no substance in the nothingness. So these people, they were meditating, and Srila Prabhupada noted that as soon as they closed their eyes, they became sleepy. They were sleeping there. So Prabhupada laughed and look, this is the yoga. So I don't know what that guy in Montreal was doing for 8 hours. I don't think he was meditating on Krishna. Because if you meditate on nothing, you're going to sleep. A deep sleep, there are 3 stages, 3 phases of sleep. There's the awakened state, there's the almost sleeping, and then there's deep sleep. There's a dreamy state, and then there's a deep sleep where you don't even remember. You become completely unconscious. When the living entities are merged into the body of Mahavishnu at the end of the creation cycle, they remain there in the deep sleep. So it is like that. We're practicing Krishna consciousness and they're practicing Krishna unconsciousness. How to be unconscious. Sleeping means you become unconscious. Of course, that consciousness is not finished. Consciousness is eternal. But it is so covered that one loses his awareness of himself. So the 4 Kumaras, they saw the beautiful form of Krishna, and this same form is seen by real yogis who practice this Ashtanga Yoga system that results in samadhi, complete absorption. So they see that form also. But these cheater yogis, they don't reach any perfection. They don't see Krishna. They're just cheating. You can also... meditation means thinking. That's what it is. Smaranam. You just think. So when they say, I meditate, it means that, for half an hour or 10 minutes every day I practice thinking. So that is also, of course, good sometimes. When someone is a rascal, sinful, let him meditate on nothing. Just like a naughty child. When he's doing so much mischief, the father tells him, go and stand in a corner and do nothing. That is to stop his rascaldom, his nefarious activities. So from that point of view, we give you credits. That you yogis, bogus yogis, at least you don't disturbing us. You're meditating on your nothingness. But for your own benefit, you should not continue such a bogus process. You should instead chant Hare Krishna. And by chanting Hare Krishna, you automatically think of Krishna. And by serving Krishna, by doing puja for Krishna, by cooking for Krishna, by selling magazine for Krishna, you automatically think of Krishna. So that is samadhi. Krishna consciousness, as Prabhupada says, is the topmost process of yoga practice. Why? Because the aim of yoga is to think of Krishna. Manmana bhava mad bhakto mamya jimam namaskuru. The Krishna recommends, think of me, manmana bhava mad bhakto, become my devotee. Worship me. In this way you come to me. 3 things. Think of Krishna, Become Krishna's devotee and worship him. This is the perfection of the yoga process. So in Satya Yuga, they would meditate for long periods of time. People were also living longer, 100,000 years average lifespan. We cannot conceive what that must be, that sort of life. Nowadays, the lifespan is very short. 100 years is not guaranteed. So we must chant. There's no need of meditate because the goal of meditation has been revealed to us. It's Krishna. People in Satya Yuga, they had so many good qualities, so the process is a little more difficult. So they can engage, they can purify all their propensities. But in Kali Yuga, we don't have any skills. Manda sumanda matayo. We're very fallen, less intelligent, lazy, no skills. So the process is easy. Chant Hare Krishna. Any questions? Yes?
A few questions today.
Yes?
So, go to the end, because I think what we just spoke about, you said that you think of Krishna when you distribute magazines,
Yes?
but I definitely don't think of Krishna.
Whose magazine is this?
Yours.
No, it's Krishna's magazine, not mine.
I don't think about like his my life is when I'm distributing it. I'm just trying to.
No, but you distributing Krishna's magazine. It's not my magazine, it's Krishna's magazine. Everything belongs to Krishna. And the magazine is about Krishna. So you're distributing, and where's the money going to? It's going to your pocket? It's going for Krishna, to Krishna, Krishna's pocket. The money is used for Krishna. So you're working for Krishna. So you're thinking of Krishna. You're thinking, you're not thinking, but you're thinking of Krishna. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. Why are you doing it? Someone might say, why don't you sell, some mundane magazine? Get money and spend for yourself. You could have been doing that. But you don't do that. Why? Because you like Krishna. You're serving Krishna. I was listening, Prabhupada says these yogis are not so advanced because they think of Krishna. But the devotee is higher because he's serving Krishna. Suppose you're hungry and I say, I'm just thinking of cooking for you. I say, okay, are you going to cook? No, I'm just going to think about it. Oh, I'm cooking for you and serving you in my meditation. What kind of thing is that? I should go in the kitchen, cook nice halava, sabji, this and that, and serve you. Which one is higher? Serving. That's your answer.
So thinking doesn't have to be, when you say thinking, you mean that if I understand, that thinking is included in service. It doesn't
Yes.
have to be like thinking of Krishna.
No, you cannot. You cannot. That's artificial. Your mind is material. I was explaining this before. Your mind is material. How can Krishna manifest through matter? When Krishna comes, he comes by the Yoga Maya, through his spiritual potency. Everything around Krishna is Yoga Maya. Your mind is not Yoga Maya. Your mind, at least my mind, is full of dirt. Why would Krishna manifest there? The mind has been used for millions of lifetimes to lord it over a material world. There's the propensity of the mind. Load it over, lord it over, lord it over. So Krishna doesn't manifest there. We don't want Krishna to manifest there. That's why we have this mind, so we can have this illusion of I am the controller. So the mind must be purified by the sound vibration. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Like that. Yes.
And the other question, sometimes people say on book distribution, and it's okay because they walk away straight away,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm always curious, sometimes they say, I say, do you do meditation? They say, oh, sleep is my meditation. What would
Uh-huh.
you say to that?
Well, how is sleep meditation? In sleep you lose your consciousness. And people are so foolish. Sleep is my meditation.
Well, that's their because they think that to meditate means to lose your consciousness or your mind, to just...
Yeah, denial, because they're frustrated. This is the symptom of the mode of ignorance. Because they can't solve the problems of human life, they say, if I sleep, they will disappear. In the mode of ignorance. They want to deny. You have to say, if I give you $1 million, will you sleep or will you be awakened?
Will you sleep your mind?
Yeah,
And if they have the opportunity of something better, they'll stay awake.
of course. Yeah. If I say that, read this book and I'll give you $1 million, will you read it or will you sleep? You will read it. Yeah. So you're only sleeping under certain condition. If the conditions change, then yeah. Next.
So question is in connection with this discussion now. So if I understand correctly, during the chanting, when there's chanting going on, during the kirtan, during the japa, that's like when purification of the mind is going on. Or if you chant attentively, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but then, if I understand that, then when we do this kind of activities, when we have other activities throughout the day, that's to kind of understand the point you're making. That so then the other things is because it's impossible to meditate for so long, like
Even short.
short, longer than Prabhupada prescribed. So that's why we have those activities, so that we can...
The activity must be there nevertheless, because the senses are material. So the senses need to be purified. All the senses.
So also, all the other activities also purified, but
Yes.
in a different way.
Yes. Krishna consciousness is the only yoga process where the yogis are purifying all of their senses. The others are they're just focusing on the mind. Next.
There's a question also on TikTok.
Okay.
Martha Morgan.
Yes.
There's two questions actually. Martha Morgan is wondering, if I sleep too much, may I incarnate as a bear?
Yes. Polar bear. You become a polar bear. You sleep. Krishna will give you opportunity. Oh, you want to sleep? Oh, kick out this human body. That is not good for you. Here, very suitable body, polar bear. So we should not be sleepy. 6 hours is sufficient. You should rise early, chant your japa, hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, like that, like the devotees here.
Lucy is wondering, even though you are a devotee, how do you know you're guaranteed to be reunited with Krishna?
How are you guaranteed?
To be reunited with Krishna.
Krishna gives the guarantee. Janma karma chame divyam evam yovati tatvata tyaktva deyam puna janmana iti mamati su Arjuna. Krishna says, the one who understands about my appearance, about my activities in this world, about my activities, he will not take birth ever again in this material world. So you must understand Krishna. If you don't understand Krishna scientifically 100%, then you have to take birth again. The guarantee is there provided you follow the instruction of Krishna.
said that Krishna came as a very materialistic mind. So does that mean that so long we are like not liberated, we can never think of Krishna? Because
Yes. Can never think of Krishna.
you can never think of Krishna, but you can read something about Krishna and remember it also.
Yes.
So
But it's not so deep. See, we have misconception. Like when people see Krishna, they see, oh, this is some blue boy. What is this nonsense? They're looking at Krishna, you're looking at Krishna. They're thinking of Krishna. Kamsa was thinking of Krishna. Better than you. He was always thinking, where is this rascal Krishna coming to kill me? But that is unfavorable. So there are different types of thinking also. You understand?
Yeah.
So our thinking of Krishna should not be taken so seriously. We should think of Krishna, definitely, but we must first of all understand who Krishna is. Otherwise we think of our own idea of who Krishna is. Like the Christians, they have this idea that God is an old man sitting on a throne with, white beard, throwing thunderbolts. So that's bogus. God is Nava Yovanam. How can God be old? That's why it is mentioned. Janma, karma, chame divyam. When you understand that Krishna's birth and activities are divyam, transcendental. If you understand Krishna's transcendental nature. Same thing with a pure devotee, the spiritual master. So many say, oh, Prabhupada, I think of Prabhupada, Prabhupada. And then they say, oh, Prabhupada, he suffered so much. Oh, he did not know, but they cheated him. And oh, he didn't know where to go. And then George Harrison helped him. And so they think of Prabhupada also. But that is unfavorable thinking. It's bogus thinking. They don't understand that pure devotee does not need any help from anyone. He's engaging people so they can get purified. This one is clear? Is this clear?
Yeah.
The different levels of thinking. Okay?
Like because you already gave me the sense that sometimes
Mm-hmm.
about understanding the transcendental of Krishna.
Yeah.
So is it something, because if this is the only thing that we need to understand in order to understand the whole Krishna,
Mm-hmm.
then is it one topic that we should think about in order to understand the rest?
That we should think of Krishna? Or?
That we should, because if we understand the appearance and sequence of Krishna, then we can understand Krishna with his transcendental activities and
Yes.
his nature.
Yes.
So then is it something we should focus on? Is
Yes?
like the most important than other things?
Yes. Everything is not that other things. Everything is the same. Everything is all connected. If you want to understand about Krishna's transcendental nature, you must understand the nature of a devotee. How the spiritual master is beyond fault. So when he gives some instruction, it's not optional. It's absolute. We have to follow it. The fact that we're not following exactly, we think that Prabhupada is an ordinary man. So the more we become strict, following the order of the spiritual master, the more we understand his transcendental nature. And when we understand his transcendental nature, then we understand Krishna's transcendental nature.
I have two questions.
Yes.
You mentioned someone being offensive towards Srila Prabhupada. Your question.
Being what?
Being offensive towards
Yeah,
Prabhupada.
yeah.
So some offensive things. My question is, what do you do if someone is speaking offensively towards Prabhupada or any devotee?
There are three ways how to deal with the situation. First of all, you can cut out his tongue. That we will not do. That is meant for the Kshatriyas. We're not in position to do like that. The second option is that you argue with him. First of all, you try to reason with him, argue, defeat him philosophically. And if it's not possible, there's a tongue cutting, and you should kill yourself. And if you cannot do any of these, then you simply leave from that place where the blasphemy took place. So these are the three options. I don't recommend cutting anyone's tongue, and I don't recommend anyone to commit suicide. So you should simply leave that place. Don't associate with such people. Very easy. Yeah, these are the three methods recommended by the Shastra. Because the blasphemy is so polluting. You yourself, you become affected by the blasphemy.
So sometimes like internally, devotees will talk about devotees like, oh, this person is not doing this, or this person is doing this so nice. Ideally, it's like this person is doing this so nicely, but sometimes from like a managerial point of view, this person is not doing this up to standard, and that, how to like hear that but not take that on, and then also feel badly towards that, like how to differentiate between blasphemy and just management.
Blasphemy and management? What is it? How can you manage blasphemy?
Because so say, you could be discussing, this person has this duty of cleaning the floor, but then really not doing it nicely.
No. That is not blasphemy. And he is a rascal. He is doing blasphemy by keeping the floor dirty. He is the blasphemer. Yes. Whatever the spiritual master said, it must be followed. And if he doesn't follow, then that is bad. Then you must immediately report to me. And I will deal with that person. And if it's me, then I'm going to kill myself.
If we want to keep it on time, we have one more.
Please, I just have one more question that's really, really important.
What's your answer? What's up to the screen?
Nothing on the phone? TikTok? Everything finished?
Nothing on TikTok.
Yeah?
How can we overcome how people think that the spiritual master is an ordinary man?
You must hear. You must hear from him, and you must also follow his instructions. You might have a doubt. Is he a realized person? Okay, you might have a doubt, but follow the instruction. That's why Krishna consciousness begins with Shraddha, faith. If you don't have faith, then you cannot begin anything. So Shraddha must be there. I put faith. Okay, I am not perfect. First of all, you should understand that you are ordinary man, that you are faulty. Otherwise, why are you going to the spiritual master? That, many people don't even they go into the spiritual master, but they think I'm perfect. That's why Prabhupada says, you want to make the spiritual master your dog. You want to take advantage. So first of all, you should understand, I am imperfect. So I am fool number one. And then you put faith in the Guru that, okay, he might be perfect. There must be someone who is perfect. Because I am imperfect. Also, there must be someone who is perfect. Perfect, imperfect, they can only coexist. You cannot have imperfect without perfect. You cannot have perfect without imperfect. This is, we live in a relative world. So here we have Srila Prabhupada, we say, yeah, he's perfect. Now you test it. Follow the instruction. Prabhupada says, Chant Hare Krishna. You do that. Read the books. Preach Krishna consciousness. Do that. Do it. And then you will understand. It will be revealed to you. Just like you're going to university. First of all, you must have faith. Yeah, if I go to university and I learn my lessons and everything, do my homework, at the end, I'll be a doctor, I'll be a lawyer, and this and that. If you don't have faith, why should I study? I will never become a lawyer. Then you can never make any progress. So faith, Shraddha, must be there. And Shraddha is there if you understand that you are imperfect. The greatest difficulty is that we don't understand that we're imperfect. We have this Google, we have this ChatGPT, we have so many things. Our so-called education, we're puffed up. Oh, I know everything. What is Prabhupada? What he can teach me? I have figured things out. That's why one should come with a blank slate. To the spiritual master, you should not have any preconceived idea. You should be blank slate. I know nothing. I'm a fool number one. Now you can only pour some knowledge into my head. And so long you think, yeah, Krishna consciousness, but I have my own knowledge. Then you kick out. You nonsense. You know nothing. The attitude is manifested by Arjuna. He said, except for you, no one can clarify this doubt. So he understood the exclusive need for mercy from Krishna. Okay? So, any other? Finished? You wanted to ask? Yeah.
In Satyuga, the way to realize life was
Krishna. Realize Krishna.
everything.
No, Krishna.
Yeah, like Krishna and who you are in relation to Krishna.
Yeah.
End of the class now. Class 9 and 5.
Yeah, it's okay.
And in this Kali Yuga age, it's chanting. So, is this is really asking a question? I'm exposing myself. Is this chanting a more gross way of realizing Krishna because we are more gross? And
Yes.
yeah,
Simple.
right.
Not gross, but it's simple.
So then, isn't the best then how they were doing it?
No, because the process is absolute, always. There's no such difference, gross or not gross, on the spiritual platform. These are, you're thinking materially. Oh, like the gopis are the most advanced, and the coward boys, are kind of losers. There's no such distinction. There is distinction, but that is a spiritual distinction. Because whatever puts you in touch with Krishna, that is spiritual, that is good. Doesn't matter how you get there. We should be, because then you're thinking like the rascal that, I've been meditating for 8 hours, so I'm better, and you meditate for 2 hours, then it becomes material, counting. Sometimes devotees, they get into this, how many years have you been Krishna conscious, or how many initiations you have, or how many rounds are you chanting, or how many tilaks you have on your head. How many, this kantimala, how do you call this, stripe? Yeah, no, threads you have. How many lines of kantimala you have. Sankhya, you want to count like a materialist. So, no, there's nothing to do with it. Krishna consciousness is about whether you understand Krishna or not. So if you're in Satya Yuga and you meditate for 100,000 years and you ultimately fail, you don't realize Krishna, then you're a loser. And if you chant one time Hare Krishna in Kali Yuga, but you chant with such devotion that you become perfect, and then you're the greatest yogi. That's the idea here presented in this purport. Alright, Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gora Premanandi Hari 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 Bol, Namo Prabhu Krishna Vistai Bhurti Vishmar Bhakti Vedanta, Samanina Namane Namaste Saraswati Reva Gauravani Mirachari Nani Visheshana Very Pachadi.